Well, I think there are superego issues that the individual confronts. The individual is unable to quell certain tendencies or rage, and in these particular cases they must have acted out of a serious sense of rage against their parents or their parent, and it shows a socialization that is warped, that is not what it ought to be, because it's very unusual for children to turn on their parents. It happens in the animal kingdom, but not amongst human beings. So the socialization process has been interfered with in some way.
Are you suggesting this is accumulated rage that's gathered over a number of years?
There could be that, but there also is likely to be a personality issue involved. The loner, you will find that often people say, he was or she was such a quiet person, not interfering with anybody, and so on. So that adage of still waters run deep. But there is a serious psychological problem that confronts the relationship between the individual and their parent. And the unrequited nature of whatever is causing them to act out in this way is what propels them to do it. So there could be drugs involved, there could be other kinds of issues, but it also underpins a closeness to the parent and inability to individuate sufficiently. So the parent becomes an extension of the individual. The individual hasn't really shown the independent spirit that's required to go out, venture on their own, and do things for himself.
So there's an increased codependence.
There is a very serious dependency complex that is likely to be involved, because it is unnatural to get involved in that kind of activity.
Just to pick up on your point about the rage, is this rage in general towards society, or is it aimed specifically at the parent?
Well, it could be a rage against failures that the individual is experiencing in their lives, and then attributed to parenting. To the parent hasn't done enough for me, because look at so-and-so, you did so much for her, what about me? That kind of sibling rivalry. But it could also be because of societal issues that the individual is unable to mediate and then turns on the parent, because the parent is probably the closest and the most accessible. So in a weird way, one turns against the person who is closest to you and whom you would rely on. At that moment, I think there's a serious break in how, in normalcy, in how they view issues, because something else takes over. And of course, our courts look at only fact. They don't look seriously at the emotional circumstances and what neediness there is in the individual to turn on the parent. In other instances, we see robbery taking place. I mean, in our country, we see a lot of youngsters, offspring, turning on older people because of grants and other things that they may get. So in a sense, we're becoming socialized by violence, is becoming normative, and the opportunity, when it presents itself, to take the law into one's own hands is very much there.
I must just ask you, because you did allude to drugs, and certainly these are the allegations in both of these cases, that there were possibly drugs involved. What sort of courage, should we say, does that give a person who wants to commit this kind of crime to be able to pull it off?
Serious desperation, very serious desperation, and looking at the parent as, you are denying me, and now I need to act in that moment of rage, and afterwards there's the remorse and everything else that goes with it, because you can never bring back that person again, or you can never undo the injury caused.
Thank you so much for talking.